So as a manufacturer, Asif, what do you recommend on the proper way of doing a brake installation?
So there's a lot of factors that play into this, right? First of all, not a lot of guys out there are doing the wrong brake job per se. The difference that's occurred is that brakes themselves have changed.
Right.
For example, you work on newer cars and older cars.
Right.
Older cars, the calipers are heavier, right?
Yes.
Newer cars, the calipers are much
very light.
Okay. What happens to a piece of paper when it's light versus thick? Say oak tag versus a piece of printer paper. What are the two differences between them?
It vibrates more, it moves more.
Right.
Yeah.
So it moves more, and movement creates what? Vehicle harmonics.
Right.
Right. So when you have a lighter caliper, which is there, and though they're using, you know, phenolic pistons, and they're using a lot of other technologies to isolate that noise, there is still a necessity of an additional NVH, and that's where shimming and everything else comes into play, right? So this is the stuff that people are not realizing, and installers are not realizing, and they always, you know, a lot of guys tell me, well, the original brake pad when it rolled off the factory floor, you know, didn't have all the grease and the goop and all that stuff that they put on there, right? How come that didn't have a problem? Couple of factors. One, it's brand new. Two, it was put together in a controlled environment where dust is nowhere to be seen. Three, you know, the shims that are used with OE manufacturers, that's why in one of our other videos we discussed shimming technology and what shims are for and why it's so important. Shims basically have multitude of grades as far as quality is concerned. And for us, you know, a good quality shim is a good quality shim. I have an example of our shim here, right? So touch the thickness of that shim, right? You've touched a lot of products before, and this is a nice thick shim. So a thick shim is something that can actually endure that NVH and make sure that you don't get squeal issues. What we do recommend to people is, when you're doing a brake job, the proper brake job is taking off the caliper assembly, moving the caliper to the side to a safe location. Typically I say use a bungee cord suspended towards the coil spring so it's not in your way. Take off the bracket, put it on the bench, use a whiz wheel. I typically, when I do brake jobs and even when I'm doing seminars, I have this little drill which has a brush wheel at the end of it, and I use the brush wheel and I go through the caliper bracket. I want to get all types of dirt off of there, you know, everything. So that dust is a big part of sometimes how brake pads are going to perform. One of the things that happens is people take off the caliper, the brake pad and stuff, they pop off the clip with a screwdriver and they take the new hardware and seat it on there. Right. If you look at the thickness of this hardware, okay, and the amount of debris that comes off of a brake pad, because let's face it, the normal function of a brake pad is it goes and rubs against a rotor surface and it has a dusting that occurs. Right. Doesn't matter if somebody says it's low dusting, high dusting, it's gonna dust. And that dust creates debris and buildup, and that buildup over time cakes up to be something of an importance as far as removal is concerned. So when you seat this on there and then you realize the brake pad's not sitting on there, it's because the cleanup wasn't done. Then you see people cleaning lobes up sometimes. You don't need to do all that. Right. Take all of that away. As long as the brake pad is a quality brake pad that's been stamped properly and finished properly, it's going to fit. So one of the key things for me is not modifying the product. Don't modify the product. The minute you modify the product, chances are you're not going to have a proper brake job. You're going to come back with something, a click issue, some type of noise issue. So that's one thing. The other thing that we always tell is lubrication, lubrication, lubrication. Lubrication has two ends to it. One, when you go to lubricate the caliper, one of the things that you find out is if the caliper is stuck. The slide pins are stuck, which means you might have a problem. You might have to replace it or get it unstuck, lubricate properly, put back together, right? So slide pins need to be lubricated. The other thing is a lot of guys like to put the same grease that they put on the slide pins on the brake pad itself, right? That's a big no-no as far as I'm concerned. And the reason why we say that is a lot of the product, a lot of the shims that are out there, they're petroleum-based. So this is rubber, metal, rubber, which is what everybody raves about, right? Okay. Well, when you put that grease, that's an oil-based grease, and you put it onto the rubber, over time that oil is going to take the rubber and kind of, what happens to a tire? When you, or any type of rubber product when it's setting in oil, it becomes soft, it becomes malleable, right? So you want to use a synthetic type grease. So what I always recommend is the purple grease that's out there, the ceramic based grease.
It's a better type to use.
Right. So use that as far as any points on the brake pad surface itself. Use the green stuff, which is another type of product that's there. You can use the black or the green stuff. I'm not naming brands because I don't want to tell preference people. They can do whatever, but the green grease is also a silicone-based grease, which is fully synthetic. Use that in the slide pins. It has a higher melting point. You won't have failure. If you do the proper cleanup and you make sure that when you're putting the new pads in and the rotor surface is nice and clean and you don't have run-out issues, run-out is something we can discuss in another video, but it's one of the bigger factors. You know, a lot of guys don't address that issue. Do the proper prep, do it right. I think in your videos you address the preparation
Right.
points. Do the right prep and you won't have issues. And
Exactly.
that I can guarantee.
Exactly.